What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to episode of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host Mike and Serial.
Hey viewers, happy Friday. Hope you're having a great one. Hope it's even better now that you're listening to us.
How have you been? I feel like we were like I feel like we were for a while there. We were like on the camera a lot together. It's been like 2 weeks. It's only
Yeah.
been it's been like 2 weeks, so not very long, but it feels like a long time.
Well, it did feel long. I feel like it might have hit closer to the 3 week mark because
Yeah,
obviously well, we didn't have anything majorly scheduled either, but obviously
yeah.
I was going through some stuff, had some health things, but now I'm all good. But I'm
Mm.
super excited to get back to the recording because it does feel like it feels longer because of
It feels,
everything that was going
yeah.
on.
Well, and two, we did the live, so we did do
Yeah.
that
Oh,
recently. But
yeah.
as far as these, it's been a while because we've had a couple of instances where we've done like the interviews in between, and so it's been like a lot more of on camera time together consistently. Whereas this was a little bit longer of a break since we started doing these. That we're going into our third month of these.
I know. I keep telling you, it feels longer and not at the same time.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It feels like we've been doing this forever because I think
Yeah.
we just get along on that in that kind of way. But at the same time, like it's like, dang, it
And I
doesn't
think
feel like
because even before becoming co-hosts, we've been interacting so much
sure.
about found footage together that
Yeah,
it
yeah,
feels
yeah,
like
yeah.
we have been doing this together.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with that. And I think this set of four is a very interesting set of four. I mean, talk about four movies that are absolutely nothing alike.
Yeah.
Uh, this is a very cool mix, I think. And we even have one that surprisingly is not currently on Found TV, which is, but
Yeah.
um,
First in a while for us.
yeah, because that's where we've been getting it all. Because if you're not familiar, we love Found TV, and you should be streaming it.
And because they have such a wide selection, so
God,
it
they
makes
do.
it honestly them doing what they're doing and then how amazing they are and the
Mhm,
collaboration between voices and them
mhm.
has been such a benefit to our show because it's just makes it a lot easier rather than being like, did you find anything on
We gotta
Tubi?
hunt down movies, yeah, and I will say, because I have the no ad version, which I do recommend, especially because you can get 10% off with keyword voices, but when you like, Tubi was, like, the place for a while, but Tubi's ads are so bad, and I mean, it adds, like, an hour to the experience, and as you know, found footage is not meant to be this long, drawn out kinda thing, so
Yeah.
even with ads, though, on Found TV, it's not that bad. It just isn't as bad as some of the other ones,
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
yeah. But this one is not on Found TV currently. This one is on, where do we watch this? Prime
Prime
Video.
Video, yes.
Yeah, and so today we're gonna be talking about the 2013 movie Delivery: Beast Within. Short synopsis. A couple agree to document their first pregnancy for a reality show, but shortly after production begins, the mother begins to suspect that her baby might be possessed by an evil entity, which I think is probably in the title, right?
Yeah.
Found footage Rosemary's Baby, sort of. Not quite the same storyline, but yeah.
That's what it's giving though. Like from the
Yeah,
picture and the synopsis,
the picture, I totally agree with that. I totally agree.
and it makes you think that's where it's gonna go.
It there's definitely some nods that would in fact make you think that. I agree with that. So this was sort of your pick. This was one you wanted to talk about. So
Yes.
what are your unspoiled thoughts on this one?
Unspoiled thoughts. I This is an underrated gem for me.
Okay.
I have seen this a while ago, and then when I started the whole like found footage journey on Twitter, having people get to know my love for found footage. This was something that I kept bringing up to people because a lot of people never heard of this movie
I had
still,
not heard of this one.
and especially for mockumentary. Um,
Mm,
this goes pretty under the radar, and I think it's just such a fun, exciting movie. And then, especially for people within our age group, within the millennial age group, I think there's this sense of nostalgia with this movie because
mhm.
I don't know if you grew up on MTV the way I did. Do you remember True Life?
I remember True Life, but and it like because in general there was this just massive wave of reality TV stuff. But yes,
Yeah.
I do remember True Life. Yes.
This movie always reminded me of MTV True Life,
Okay, I can see
like if
that.
it was
Yeah.
an episode.
Yeah.
So I was drawn to that, and then um, and we'll get into the characters and what we feel about them. But however we feel about them, they were very engaging to me.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Whether you liked somebody or not, I was very captivated by the storytelling, by their delivery, everything about their relationship. Because even though it's going to where it goes and all this stuff, it felt very natural and sort of real.
Yeah.
And that's what, again, when you are watching in world camera movies via found footage, via mockumentary, you want the sense of realism, even though you
Yes.
know it's not. And
Yeah.
this movie just delivered on all marks for me there.
Yeah. So, and you said this before we started recording. This is kind of a good time to do this one. We just passed Mother's Day. This is very much about motherhood in a lot of ways. I will say, like, I was telling you this when I saw, I asked you what the poster was because I wanted to make sure, because there's what's the guy from Game of Thrones that plays Snow?
Oh, Kit
Kit,
Harington? Kit
whatever his
something?
name is. Yeah, him. He he has like a werewolfy movie called Beast Within. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, first of all, I don't remember that being found footage. So that can't be it. So I asked you for the poster and you sent it to me and I was like, oh God, I was hoping this wasn't because I am so sick of pregnancy horror. Like I'm so tired of it. I saw Immaculate. I saw the first Omen. I felt like there was another one not that long ago that was like all about, and I'm so over it. And a lot of the reason I say that, this will play into my unspoiled thoughts. I say that because one of the reasons they don't work for me is because I don't buy them. I
Okay.
don't buy into them. I don't buy into and I'm a mother. I don't pretend that every mother's journey or emotional experience related to having children or giving birth or anything is the same because I know that it's not. But they always feel like they're lacking a mother's experience. And I think that that's a lot of them. I'm just like, ugh.
Do
Anyway,
you
so
think that could be intentional?
I don't know. I don't well, for me, the pregnancy horror stuff doesn't work. If you can't make me feel things regarding either motherhood or body autonomy, what was even the point? Like, it just doesn't work, right? And so, I don't think either of those newer movies have done a very good job with that specific subject matter. I do think an independent I will give a quick shout, and then I promise I'll circle back to my point. There is a film called Bloodborne that I it's an indie film. I've interviewed the filmmaker. I am such a champion for this movie because it is a we can't get pregnant, we can't get pregnant. Let's turn to the dark side to get pregnant. But it's emotional. They had female writers. I think his wife was pregnant at the time that they were writing it, like, and it comes through. And it was so emotional. Like, I never expect random pregnancy horror movies to be emotional. And I found that this one had that. It had this, there's the beginning intro parts where they're kind of telling you the story about why they're there and how the issues they've had with getting pregnant and all these things. And I was in like, I know women that have said those things, that have had to
Yeah.
tell that story or are experiencing, and so it immediately had me emotionally, like, I was choked up immediately. There's another part later, I mean, obviously she gets pregnant, so I don't think that's a spoiler, right? Because that's the whole point of the movie, but there's a part where she and her husband get to hear the heartbeat, and it made me cry because I can't imagine, like, I had to try pretty hard to get pregnant, and that first heartbeat is just such a big deal. Like it's such a big deal. And so the way they reacted to it, their story, oh my God, it just had me. There's so much emotion in this, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I do have some nitpicky complaints that I'll get into when we get to spoilers. The one of them is I don't think this needed to be an hour and a half long. It's an hour 26 minutes or 24 minutes or something like that. This could have been one of those hour-long found footage movies, and I think it would have just tightened up a little bit of some of those drawn out scenes. Too much glitch effect. Please, found footage filmmakers, stop using that for all of your scares. Please, I'm begging you. Otherwise, acting was really strong. I love the story. I think the characters reacted rationally, -1. We will get to that. And I really did like this one. I think as far as pregnancy horror goes, it's one of the best ones I've seen in forever. Well, since Bloodborne. Bloodborne came out, well, I guess technically after that, but this is newer for me. So, but yeah,
I'm
I
so
really
glad
liked
to hear that because,
it. I
well,
was
when I
bitching.
sent it to
I
you and we had
was
the conversation, I was like, "Oh, she's gonna hate this."
we were
Like
talking
this,
about it. And
because there were parts where I was like, "Oh my god, she's gonna hate this." I was like, "She's gonna kick me off the show. She's gonna hate this."
yeah, you guys don't know what Mike has to listen to when I'm like bitching about these movies. He like sends me a movie he wants to discuss, and I'm like, I'm gonna hate this. And I even apologize. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like this. I can't help
And
it.
I don't mi I love that feedback because the main thing that we have always said, and it's true to what we do for the audience, what we do for the
Yeah,
filmmakers, but what we do for each other is we have to within being respectful, we
sure.
have to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I love that. Our dynamic is always gonna be we're gonna be honest to each other.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're
So
right.
I always appreciate when you're just like, "What is this about?" "Yeah, that sounds terrible." And I'm just like, "I'm here for
I'm
it."
so mean and I don't even mean to be. But I will tell you, I do think it's just specifically because pregnancy horror, they've been pumping it out a lot, I feel lately. I mean, they're doing the apartment, whatever, from the prequel to Rosemary's Baby. I'm like, did we need that? I feel like probably not.
But you
We
know
didn't
what,
really
too? What I
what?
do love about that and how you
Hmm.
do, say all that because the thing that makes it so much better is
Hmm.
when I do pick a movie and you end up liking it, it feels that much more special because 'cause I'm like, "Yes."
Yes, because I'm such a pain in the butt to please with these
Yeah.
movies. No, I really like this one. I would have to agree that it's gotta be considered or classified as a hidden gem because, like you said, I had never even heard of this movie,
Yeah.
and it's over 10 years old. It came out in 2013, and
Yeah.
I really liked it. I need more of this emotional stuff if we're gonna do pregnancy horror because there's so much that can go into that, whether you want the baby or you're suddenly pregnant, you did not ask for a baby. There's so much you can do with that emotionally. And everybody like raise, oh, the ending of Immaculate. And I'm like, it's okay, I guess. Like everyone's like, oh, it's the craziest ending. And I'm like, I don't know. I've seen Martyrs. I don't think it's that crazy.
I mean, it was a nice scream. I don't
Yeah,
know what
she
people
well,
were
and
raving
I will say
about.
I love her. I started loving her when she was in Euphoria
Yeah.
with Zendaya and, Hunter Schafer, and I'm like, "That's such a guilty pleasure." I love that show. But she's great in that. She plays Cassie, and so I love her. But yeah, I just anyway, but this was a pleasant surprise. So what do you rate this one?
So this one for me, I will say I
Mhm.
remember loving this way, way more. So I'm
Oh.
probably bringing it down just a smidge.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but I still would give this. I'm sh- part of you know what, I'm just gonna give it a 7.5, a
Okay,
7.5.
7.5. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I'm gonna give it.
I am shockingly not too far behind that. I really liked this. I do have some nitpicky things we'll get into, but I would give this a 6.5. I would give this a 6.5 out of 10. 6.5 for me.
Nice.
All right, so I guess we can jump into some spoiler thoughts. I know we both have some, I think. So, did you have a specific spot you wanted to start at for spoilers?
So I basically where I kind of just want to dive into, and I think we're gonna have a similar conversation, is basically the dynamic between the husband and wife, because I wasn't hating him at first
At first.
because I'm like, okay, like this is a good dynamic between them. He seems very caring. He's
Yep.
not like over the top, but he's
Mhm.
very much involved.
Yep.
And then the first thing for me, and I don't know how you feel because I don't know what your interaction is with like in-laws and stuff like that. But
Not great.
when they tell the mom that they're pregnant, I feel like it set the tone, even though I didn't like what the mom said, but it
Oh,
did set
about
the
the
tone for him.
responsibility.
Yeah, where she's like,
And he
"You
was
know,
like,
this is a big responsibility," and I'm like, "Why would you is I get that there's like people who are a
Yes.
little bit like less serious, but like he is
Yeah.
very aware that he's becoming a father.
Yeah, well, and they're sharing this news after a miscarriage and
Yeah.
trying really hard to get pregnant. I actually did not really appreciate her reaction in general. I will tell you, her reaction, while I did not appreciate it, I would say is quite realistic because when I told my ex-in-laws, I heard my ex-father-in-law verbally say out loud, "Oh no." So
Yeah.
anyway, so there are
Um,
people, but you're right though. That was the first time where there was that little bit of something there. I agree. There's that weird moment where you see this fleck of something in him. I agree with that. That's a good point to bring up.
yeah, and then again, like they're throughout. I think that's what I like about this movie is that
Yeah.
he seems very real, whether it be good or bad, because uh, I kept seeing some good parts of him. How attentive he was, but then I have a feeling I know where you started to turn and feel
Yep.
differently because
Oh yeah.
uh, while obviously she was going through some things that we know
Yeah.
is something else. He doesn't. So he has to view it as this is his pregnant wife just being a pregnant woman, and he's not handling it so great from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in this case you're adding a baby, but he's basically Mika from Paranormal Activity. The
See,
longer the longer that he's on camera, the more of Mika he becomes, and Mika is like one of the most despicable horror characters. Like, I love his name, but I can't stand him. And so, for me, I hated the character of Kyle. I felt like we were kind of tricked
we
in the
were duped.
beginning. But there's like, she gets kind of late into the pregnancy. They just had that break in. There's all this weird stuff going on. She had to go to the hospital initially and they thought they had lost the baby and then they had the break. I mean, it's literally been nonstop for her. And I get like his whole argument is like, "Oh, I work like 12 hours a day." And I'm like, "Okay, well, did you not know that that was the role that you played in the situation? Like, it's not like it was new, like it just happened." So he's like, "Oh, I work 12-hour days." And so he goes out for a drink with, I guess, work friends. I don't know who they are. I'm
Yeah,
assuming they're work friends because it's not the same people that are at the baby shower. So clearly they're not her friends.
right.
Um, and I just had a hard time with that because I'm sitting here thinking about like being in that position. And first of all, when you're that far along, it's incredibly difficult to control your emotions because your hormones are so jacked up. You're like your body is trying to finish making this baby and get you where you need to get so that you can have it. And he's just like out and
Mhm.
he's like having shots and then he drives home like super late. He didn't tell her that he was going to be later than he said because he told her that he was going to be just like one drink and he was going to come home or it was going to be quick or whatever. And she's like at home dealing with all of this. And then he comes home and he like is argumentative with her because she was worried about the dog. So she put the dog in the and I'm like, I hate this guy so much. Like you should have never left her all night like that anyway. She's
Yeah.
too far along in the pregnancy. You guys have already had one miscarriage. You thought you miscarried with this one. There's too much going on for you to choose now to be absent.
And
Because
oh,
yeah,
good.
I was just going to add, it felt very selfish to me, but
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of, especially in like heterosexual relationships, I feel like that's just so normal. Like, I feel like these men, they just like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do is have a baby, right? So they don't even like think about all the stuff that goes into it or what you're thinking and feeling. And then you add to the story the supernatural stuff that's happening. She's being filmed all the time. The dog is freaking her out. She's got
Yes.
like the break-in literally just happened like 2 days prior to this. And I'm like, "What the hell is wrong with you, Kyle?" It's always a Kyle. "What is wrong with you?"
And this is where I'm a huge advocate for your your feelings are valid. Everybody's
Yeah,
feelings
sure.
are valid, but you
Yeah.
also have to take things in account because
Mhm.
yeah, guess what? You did work 12-hour days,
Yeah.
but she's pregnant 24/7 right now.
Bro. Yeah, that one.
So
Yeah.
as someone who is not pregnant, will never get pregnant, can't experience that, I can still understand that is a change that someone who can get pregnant has to deal with until the pregnancy is over, and even kind of after the fact.
Oh,
Like there's still things you
100%.
have to recover from and all of that.
Yeah.
So it was a very selfish act on
Ugh.
him. And then and you hit it nail on the head because you have to take into account one, pregnancy in itself is extremely difficult. Even a good pregnancy, even a
Yeah.
pregnancy with
It's a
no
lot.
issues, from what I hear, is still
It's a lot.
very difficult.
It's a lot.
And now you are adding on the fact, even though you guys signed up for it, you are being filmed 20, almost 24/7 as someone who's going through, like you said, so many different hormonal changes, uh, bodily changes, uncomfortability, and then having someone in your face with the camera when you don't feel the best.
Yeah, or you're feeling super vulnerable or you're scared or you're angry. Yeah, it's one thing to be in front of a camera when you're, like, super happy and you're like, "Oh, and we're gonna not know the gender because we think that's fun, and we're not gonna do this or that," or the sex, I'm sorry. "They're not gonna know the
Yeah.
sex of the baby because this is fun, and we're gonna tell all our friends," and it's like but it's a whole ass other thing when you gotta be rushed to the hospital because you just thought you had a miscarriage and there's no heartbeat. Like, it's a lot, and they do go through it, because that's the other thing is, like, kind of a nitpicky thing. I don't actually feel like there's a lot of scary horror here. It feels a lot more like maybe like a horror drama, I would say,
Yeah.
just because there is and I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way. I think they worked with what they had.
Oh, yeah.
Um but I think, like, there's some cool shots. So for, like, the example, there's a shot where she's moving around the house and she feels off, or I think she hears something, I can't quite remember, but she turns the camera, her phone, I think, or so whatever she's holding, to the mirror. Ow, sorry. To the mirror, and there's this weird, blobby, blurry mess in front of her stomach. Really great shot. Kudos
Yes.
to that. That shot was really cool and very unsettling. Um,
I thought you were
and
gonna see a different shot because but it was almost the same. It was
right.
towards the end when, he was trying to get her to bed, and they
Oh,
turned
yes.
towards the mirror, and her face slightly, just ever so slightly distorted. That was for me, that was the probably the scariest part of the entire movie. Because, like you said, it's not really built on horror scares, but what I
No.
will say, what I think and we need to make a little jar for how many times we bring this up on the show. But this, for a mockumentary, really fell into what we call the found footage formula.
Yeah.
Sets a story, and
Yep.
the everything happens in the last 5 minutes
Yeah,
with this
it's
movie.
very, very slowly paced, but I do think there's enough peppered in, but yes, you're right. It does follow that formula really, really close to the gray because the ending is, of course, when she gives birth. And so
Yes.
there's a lot going on. And I just like there's also parts where they're doing a lot of that glitching stuff, which I'm just not a super big fan of. Mostly because to me it doesn't even look like authentic glitching. It's very clearly edited and I don't like that. I like when it looks real, like real footage glitching, you know? And so, but there's these close-ups of her because the camera guys, there's a bunch of people around her when this is happening, and the camera guys are kind of like on the outside circle of it. And so but there's these shots where her eyes look solid black, and there's just like little things like that. And then you're like, okay, the baby's born, but we're told at the beginning of the movie that this lady dies. We're told that. So I was like, this movie don't got that much longer. I'm like, what happens? And then she pulls out the scissors and what looks like to us tries to, but successfully kills her baby, like with a pair of scissors, like sewing scissors, the silver
So
ones.
fast.
Where did she even get the damn things is what I want to know, because she's just sitting on the floor. She just gave birth. She's like standing there and then she's like sitting there. Mika part two sitting next to her, and out of nowhere, she just grabs these things and just goes, and it glitches, and it cuts to black, and it's like the baby died. It's like these words come up, and you're like, what the? And it's like she goes to a mental institution, and 2 months later, she kills herself, and I'm like, well, this was a crazy. It just went crazy off the rails after that.
And then in true we
Yeah.
hate Kyle fashion. So
He
baby is murdered. Sorry guys, trigger warning, baby is
yeah.
murdered.
Yeah.
Um, mom kills herself in a mental institution.
Yep.
And dad remarries and is having another baby.
Yeah, and wants nothing to do with the film because there is we didn't even talk that much about that, but this is mockumentary. It's got the cast or the cast, I'm sorry, the producer of the show, Rick,
Yeah.
who is like the main, he's like he tells him he's like, he's got his own little thing going on. And then they interview like a couple of the friends, but there's this mockumentary element to it. And so that's kind of the excuse to have the footage, which I think always works really well. I loved the intro goofiness of the show called Delivery and like the music and them running with with the sheet for no reason in the backyard. I was there for that cheesiness. I was like, because that's what those shows really are like. They're
Oh yeah.
very silly. But yeah, when they go in and that like Armenian woman is like trying to stab the mom. What is the mom's name? I keep wanting to call her
Rachel.
Katie because I keep thinking paranormal activity. Okay, Rachel, sorry. She like is like yeah, like saying all this stuff, and they're like, oh, the word she said was devil, and then it's like it's just weird. But I will tell you one more scene I did for sure want to get in while we're talking about
Yes.
spoilers is the scene when Kyle goes off and like rips all the cameras down and like comes in there and starts. Let me just tell you this. I don't have a daughter, at least not currently. I don't have a daughter. Like but I'm telling you right now, if my child was sitting there like that after going through all that and their significant other was going off, I'm hitting them. I'm not leaving. I'm swinging. Because and I give it to the mom because I think the woman who played the mom was very compelling in that scene. She's
Yeah.
screaming, you can see she's like, "I'm not leaving her here with you." She should have hit him though, is really what she
Yes.
should just knocked his ass out. But I'm just saying like that scene was so intense. Like I felt like I had a lot of anxiety watching that because he's over it. He's like losing it. She's having whatever's going on with her. The mom is there telling him basically like "F you, I'm not leaving," and he's freaking out. And I don't know, that whole scene was just very chaotic. But I was watching it thinking she should have hit him because I'm telling you, if I was her in that position, I would have knocked his ass out. I'd be like, oh, let me just tell you who you not talking to like that. And I just was
Yeah.
not him. So anyway, that was just one more scene I wanted to get in while we were talking
Oh
about
no, of course. Yeah. I'm 100% with you because this acting really, for the most part, there might
yeah,
have been like a scene or two that wasn't outstanding, but I think everybody delivered the performance that they needed to
I agree.
when they needed to.
No, I agree.
Like I just really when we were meant to care and empathize and
Oh
feel
yeah.
for them, we did. When we were
Oh
meant
yeah.
to be upset, we were upset. And then
Yeah.
when they got into the supernatural, the creepy, the everything, I was unnerved.
Yeah.
Like again, the horror elements wasn't like extremely strong in the scare factor,
Mhm.
but that tension was there. And to me,
Mhm.
that's the I don't need to be scared. And again, we watch so many horror movies, sometimes you get desensitized, but
Oh
the one
sure.
thing that you really can't get desensitized from is tension. If you're
No, I
really
agree.
good at storytelling, you will
Mhm.
always be able to make the viewer tense if you're not able to make them scared. And this
I'm
movie
fine
did
with
it.
that. Yeah, and I think it's also worth mentioning horror doesn't have to be scary to be horror.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I had a coworker argue with me about that recently, and I was like, "Try to tell me Doom wasn't a horror game, bro."
Funny enough, that's been somewhat of a little discourse on Twitter/X right now too.
Well, let me just tell
Um,
you this. He is 25. I played Doom when it came out. Don't be talking to me about Doom, okay? Don't even be talking to me about Doom. But I just think that like a lot of times there's plenty of like I do want to be scared, but I don't
you,
have to be scared to appreciate that a film is horror, And I
right.
think this fits in that. I think there's at least two jump scares that got me. I think when the door slammed, I was like, "Oh," because I wasn't expecting it. Um
Then who's to say that this wasn't scary to
for
someone?
other
You know what I
people,
mean?
yeah.
Someone
Yeah,
else might
exactly.
have been like,
So
"This was
I think
terrifying."
But I think it's okay to, like, go into a horror movie and not be, like, devastated that it wasn't scary. It can still
Yeah.
be good. And I think in some ways this probably could be kind of scary emotionally, depending on what you've been through in your life or where you are with life. But no, I really did like this one. I think pregnancy horror for me has just been so miss lately that it was nice to watch something that made me feel something other than annoyance.
Yeah. And I'm so happy you like this. Like I said, I am beaming because
'Cause
this
you
was
didn't
the
know, right? Oh,
yeah,
no, I did kinda text a little bit, but you didn't know for sure how I felt
yeah,
about
like
it
I
until
thought I was at least happy because I'm like, well, it she would have already let me know that she hated this.
That's true.
I was like, we're
That's
looking at a
true.
4. I was like, we might be in 4 territory or above.
Did my 6 surprise you? My 6.5?
I thought based off of how you were talking earlier, I thought it might get closer to a 7. So the 6.5 was,
Probably about what you were thinking,
yeah,
kinda? Yeah. No, I like this, and if you have Prime Video, you can watch it. It does have ads, which kinda sucks, but or at least mine did. I don't have the bougie Amazon. I have, like, the cheap Amazon, but either
I have
way
ads too.
either way, no, it was a good watch, so, and we agreed more for the most part. Ow,
Yeah, we
sorry.
were pretty close.
Yeah, so we did good. I'm proud of
Because what did
us.
I say?
I'm
Seven
proud of
and a half.
me. Huh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm proud of you too.
I gave it a chance. I sat through the whole thing and I really did. I did like it. I thought it was really good. It definitely wasn't like that other one you had me watch where I was like, I have to finish this. I'm not allowed to like cut it off because we're going to talk about it on the show. So,
And
I did good this time.
the funniest thing is, and obviously we'll talk about that in the episode, but that movie I picked for you specifically because I thought
Oh,
you would
yeah.
like it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that in our rotation. Uh, oh, let's give a quick shout to I'm gonna let you talk about it because you probably can say it all. The physical release of the possession, what is it called for Found TV?
The link. Oh no.
Lincoln
Um,
Possession. That's right.
the Lincoln Possession.
I think that's right.
Yes. So our amazing friends over at Found TV are now doing some physical media releases, and they're doing a really cool, unique uh, way of releasing physical media. Is this movie that it's going to be their first original Found TV film,
A
and
possession in Lincoln County. I'll put the poster right here.
The Possession in Lincoln County is going to be their first movie to the Found TV banner. And so they're releasing 500 copies of, I believe it's a Blu ray.
Hmm.
And it is going to have an alternate ending that is not going to be streaming. It is never going to hit streaming. It is
Yep.
never
It's
going to
top
be
secret.
available anywhere other than the 500 copies that will be sold. So only 500 people will have physical access to this alternate ending, and
Yep.
make friends with everybody who gets this Blu-ray because you're going to want to see the alternate ending and you're going to want to borrow the Blu-ray.
Yeah, and I'll put the link below so you can go pre-order it for yourself. Because it's the cover, like, as you've already seen, is super cool. I'm excited.
And then pre-orders go live, I believe, June 1st.
Yes, that's right, June 1st.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
So,
we
yeah.
love them. We love Found TV. We are so excited for all the original content that they'll be bringing to
Oh,
us.
yeah, I can't wait. Yeah.
So
We'll be
go
covering that one
support
when it
them.
comes out, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I think that is going to wrap up this week's episode of Found Footage Fridays. Make sure if you're not already following Mike that you use the links below to do so. You can also buy our merch. There's a link for that as well. Yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this episode of Found Footage Fridays. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy your week, and Mike and I will see you next time.